Okay, I just hit the go live button. So we should be live. I'm checking the live stream right now to see to confirm. I will let you know the second. It should just
Mm-hmm.
be. I think there's a little delay. Thank you for being patient. By the way, just so you know, um, you how long have you been getting my emails?
For a while, I don't remember quite how I signed up for them. Uh, we
Okay,
haven't interviewed before, right? I don't believe we've had an interview before.
no, actually, let me turn off the live stream right now. I do hear you double. Okay, so yes, we are actually live streaming right now, and actually, apparently, there's two people watching. Shout out to them. Anyways, just so you know, I'll tell you a little bit about my. Actually, I don't know if you know Owen Charles. You
Yeah.
know, yeah, okay. He's a pretty solid member of the Greens and been there for a long time, right?
Oh, yeah. Owen is one of the first people I met when I decided to join the Green Party in 2019.
We have some history going back. There's other things going on too. I've been in Green since the 90s. But first, I just want to introduce my audience to you. Just folks, what's up? This is DJ Elf 7. And as you know, I have the most interviews in the 22 election cycle, but this is actually one of the candidates I'm the most excited about speaking to because in my research about him, actually, we're going to see a lot of similarities, a lot of interesting things of note. There's a lot of crossover in a lot of worlds. We're about to find out a whole bunch of super interesting things. This candidate right here actually, why don't you just introduce yourself in your own terms? He doesn't know about what's about to happen, right? Yeah, this
uh,
is pause for him.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Justin Paglino. I live in Connecticut. And like I just said, I joined the Green Party in like late 2019, early 2020, and decided right off the bat to run for U.S. Congress that year, and collected the signatures, and I got on the ballot, and I ran for Congress against Rosa DeLauro on many issues. One was Medicare for all, which she doesn't support, and uh, and then I ran again in 2022. I've been very involved in the Green Party continually since then, kind of ramping up my involvement. I've become a chapter leader of the Greater New Haven Green Party and become a co-chair of the state party of the Connecticut Green Party. So I'm one of the co-chairs there, and a national delegate as well, which means I am one of the people in the national party who votes on proposals and decisions and things like that. And I'm gearing up for a likely 2024 run for U.S. Senate against Chris Murphy, who is also an opponent of Medicare for all.
Okay, I'm so excited to talk with you. Yeah. Now the thing is that I've worked a lot on the issues that you've talked about. I'm actually going to ask you about some other issues as well, but I just want to get to just to get to know who you are, right? This is kind of our real first live meeting. I know you've got some of my emails. I'm not sure which ones you've gotten, but I'll tell you about how you got them in a moment. But you're actually let's take a look at how your career started. You're actually an MD PhD. Am I correct?
Yes, so I went to medical school at Brown, and then I was interested in pathology and research. I came to Connecticut to go to Yale's uh, um, training in clinical pathology, which was 2 years. And then I really wanted to get more training in medical research, so I enrolled in the.
Yeah. So I'm
Uh,
gonna tell you what Justin's not telling you right now. The fact of the matter is that, right? Yeah, in the doctor's world, in the world of doctors, there's a hierarchy, and Justin's being modest right here. But the fact of the matter is that when you take a look at the MD PhD, the thing is that they're the people who go to school for free because they're doing research, and his actual later work was in research. So the thing is that there's if you take a look at who gets to pay the most in doctors, it's dermatologists, and that's a little unfortunate. It's superficial to an extent. They have an easy lifestyle. It's not really, but in terms of like ND PhD, in terms of really public health, and in terms of like really research and really and your study is in terms of oncology, cancer genes and viruses and stuff like that, is very interesting because I know you also had a live stream with Mary Holland from the Children's Health Defense Funds. I work with a lot of people who are fighting against vaccine mandates. Your qualifications in this field are simply amazing, and the fact that you're willing to be in I'm also working on medical freedom against mandates. As a doctor yourself, right? I think you left being a doctor to become an activist. Why would you do that, right? Your compensation is so well. What really is the obviously became a doctor maybe to help people, right? We could have became a dermatologist. I'm not putting down dermatologists, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. But instead, you decided to take another path.
Yeah, I mean, I did research. I did the PhD program at Yale for 5 years, and then I did 10 years of that was in virology, and specifically, I was interested in using viruses to treat cancer, and then I did another 10 years in the same field, viral therapy of cancer, using different viruses than I had been using, and that was my postdoc. At the end of that, I had a great experience doing research, but I'd always had in the back of my mind that there were other things I was interested in, and including politics and music. And you know, I mean, what happened to me is my
You're
parents
teaching
passed away.
piano, right? Right now, you're teaching piano.
I play piano and I teach piano. Yeah,
That's pretty free, man. You went to now you're able to do what you want to do. That's pretty cool.
yeah. I had sustained, supported myself. You actually don't get paid a lot as, relatively speaking. I mean, it's a decent salary, but as a postdoc, it's not like being a dermatologist. It's a
I know.
but
Yeah.
um,
The
but
dermatologists, if you take a look at it, right, the superstars, they can pay for a superstar surgeon, right? Yeah, thousands and thousands of dollars for that Luxor treatment. But the thing is that, right, if you take a look at the studying, drugs and stuff like that, sometimes there's a lot of profit made by the companies, but the researchers, right? That doesn't mean that they're necessarily well compensated and relative towards what's available to them. So once again, Justin Paglino, I'm telling you right now, he's the best of the best, as in terms of just academic credentials, as in terms of like his ability to withstand or being able to compete against others in that field. He's being a little modest about it, and I'm not mad about that. We all have our gifts, we all have our shortages, right? But I'm impressed by that, and I'm also impressed the fact that he's decided to take a political stance. I believe this is very essential for our overall public health as well. So thank you so much for your sacrifice. You walked away from a lot, from a lot to try to better mankind, and I can see that and I recognize that. I don't know if that's just the truth. I'm not just kissing your ass because honestly, God's truth is I'm calling a lot of people, and we're about to make that happen in a hot moment. Yeah. Anyways, go
I
ahead.
appreciate that.
No doubt. Okay. So right now, want to talk to you about some things. First of all, what's the deal with what's your stance on vaccines? Right, having Mary Holland there, that was very interesting. What's going on there?
Vaccines. So you're talking about the COVID vaccine
Hmm.
specifically.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so obviously very controversial area. I read a lot of the papers, especially some of the initial papers, and as more science came out, I kept reading papers about the safety of the vaccines, the efficacy of the vaccines. Um, my general stance has always been one of that's a little bit, nuanced. I think people tend to want to take one side versus another. Um, and my training in science is basically, you try not to jump to any conclusions. You try not to say more than is true. You not try to, qualify everything you say with the exceptions. So I believe that the vaccines initially had did have a lot of efficacy. Um, I think the initial studies showing they had efficacy was robust. I read those papers, and they showed a 95% for the mRNA vaccines, showed a 95% reduction in PCR positivity, which means like a PCR test, which is the most sensitive test for people who were randomized to get the vaccine versus people who were randomized to not get the vaccine. And um, and so I believe they were effective. Now over time, the of course, as we knew was going to happen, or as I assumed was going to happen, and maybe the media didn't do a great job telling people about this, but of course the virus has mutated over time, and the vaccines gradually became less and less efficacious, which is why they started talking about adding booster doses and things like that. In terms of safety, there was there came to be evidence that these vaccines were not 100% safe. There came to be evidence that, um,
Can I just ask some questions
yeah,
right quick? I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Now the thing is that I also was in medical school, just so you know, didn't
yeah,
make it through. But the fact is that I do have a lot of clinical hours of observation in doctors' offices. I also work for a legal firm, helping them to defend patients against insurance claims. I'm definitely not on the on the academic level as yourself, but I'm also a strong advocate for the people, stuff like that. So I'm going to ask you right here. I've seen some stuff. You have too, and the fact of the matter is that we know there's a lot of industry corruption of the medical, right? I don't know if you actually went to get continuing education requirements, but the thing is that, right, to keep your license, right? I know you're not clinically seeing people in the clinic, so I don't know if you have to renew your license, but
I
like the doctors
didn't.
have. Okay. But you know about those, they're actually run by the drug companies that really spend those as really commercials to market their goods. That's really what continuing education is. You know what I mean? And this is actually inundated throughout we see the opioid crisis, things like that. We also see that the way that people were defining, right? Yeah, people were how they were classifying COVID on the doctor's forms, right? Yeah, like, oh, someone came in and they died of something, but they could just write COVID and they could get reimbursed, right, a certain amount of money from the federal government. There was a lot of like, so how can you trust the numbers or the reports when so much of it is actually skewed? You get what I mean? Just from your own observation and being around, right? Just being in medical school, I'm sure you saw some of it. Did you go through residency?
Yeah, well, I did residency in clinical pathology,
Okay.
which so I didn't, that was more of a back office kind of job where we're working in the lab. We're not. I did see patients, but not as much as someone who went into internal medicine or something like that. But when I was on the blood bank rotation, we did see patients who had transfusion reactions or in the clinic who were getting apheresis and procedures like that to have like blood exchanges for sickle cell patients or cancer patients or so you know I but I didn't have a lot of experience. You know I my experience was learning medicine, learning science, and the bureaucracy was always a little bit distant from me, from my training. Like I wasn't trained as a healthcare administrator, um, or I didn't come from the insurance world. I don't come from, you know, I, so a little bit. I can't necessarily speak as an expert to how those things go on. It's funny that as a doctor, you don't get. I mean, we had some training in how insurance works, but a lot of times doctors will get questions like, "How much will it cost me to get this medicine?" And doctor can't answer their patient because we don't know how much their insurance is going to reimburse, or a lot of that stuff is surprisingly not transparent to people in the field. But you know the if you're asking which numbers do I trust, which numbers do I not trust, you know I look at journal articles, if I'm trying to determine scientific truth, and the higher the reputation of the journal, the more I trust it. So if it's coming out of JAMA, if it's coming out of Nature or Science, if it's coming out of the Lancet, those are more reliable journals. They have a reputation because um, those articles have been reviewed by anonymous reviewers, peers who don't are anonymous to the author, so they are free to give negative feedback
Okay.
without consequence.
So
Um,
just sorry, just to want to I know we only have a limited time. I have so many things to talk about with you just
yeah,
because so many different things cross. Now the thing is that when we take a look at the now you believe in the vaccines to an extent, right? You also now are, finding out about the other issues going on with vaccines like side effects. But there's people out there that want to have vaccine mandates for certain things, schools, right? Other healthcare situations, right? Healthcare workers, some of them are fighting against healthcare mandates, like nurses, stuff like that. What's your position on healthcare mandates? I saw you hang out. I personally am against them, right? Yeah, but I just want to know what you think, just so my viewers can just understand what your position on this.
yeah, I do not support vaccine mandates for the COVID vaccine, and that's because, I mean, for multiple reasons. I think I think it's an individual choice if a person wants to get the vaccine. I think that choice should be made in consultation with a doctor. I think that's one area where there was a big failure. I think, not everyone has access to a physician. It was kind of like you're getting your advice from the mass media on what you should do with this decision. I mean, some people were able to talk to a doctor, but doctors are swamped. It's hard to get. We don't have enough doctors. It's hard to get an appointment. So they had these massive, drive-through centers. They could barely get all the vaccines out. But yeah, I think it's an individual decision, and partly that's because there was a risk of side effects, and then it came to be clear as the vaccine was rolled out that there were sometimes serious effects, very serious side effects, including the clotting disorders that could lead to death or
Yeah.
disablement.
And there's a
And
lot
then,
of money to be made right the other way, and a lot of people see this and they see that there's an incentive to cover it up, and they don't trust anything, and they're very disappointed. But appreciate your position on that. Right now, let's talk about New Hampshire. You're actually I mean, sorry, Connecticut, right? Yeah, Shoreline Greens. I do have some experience with Shoreline Greens in the past. Not so much recently, but I'm glad to see you. Right? Yeah, co-chair. Right, important state, Connecticut. Right. I have other Andrew Bangini. I think something like that. Right? Do you know him? He's also part of
no,
Medicare for All. He was part of the People's Party. There's other things going on. So the thing is that we take a look. What's the relationship of Shoreline Greens and the National Green Party, and what's going on currently? I did see something on your page about stopping the coronation of Cornel West. I got actually a whole crew of people that's working to stop that, including members of the Black Caucus and actually several presidential candidates and some heavyweights in the Green Party. That's really also we're talking. Yeah, let's talk.
oh, well, this is an interesting topic. Yeah. Uh, the Shoreline Greens was a chapter that existed along the shoreline east of New
One
Haven.
one of the most successful in the country, may I add. Look at the number of elected representatives they have. Feel free to expound on that. Right, much props out to the Shoreline Greens.
Yeah, we had some people elected, particularly in Clinton. We had someone elected to the town council there, Eric Bergman, which was great. You know, Green Party is local people interacting and trying to get into local office. And we people think, oh, we only run a presidential candidate every 4 years, but that's not true. There are people all over the country trying to get people onto school boards, onto town councils, and it's true we're not as numerous as we'd like to be, and we're not as visible as we'd like to be, and we're not everywhere. We have pockets of strength, but we're serious about trying to get elected into office at all levels, from
Yeah.
the bottom to the top.
So what's the
And
relationship of Shoreline Greens with Nationals?
yeah, so just to correct you a little bit, the Shoreline Green Party, just to update you, has become the Greater New Haven Green Party,
Mm,
because I wanted to really focus on the city of New Haven, where I worked and where there's so many people, and I think a lot of opportunities for growth. So we still include those shoreline towns, but now we're the Greater New Haven Green Party. So we are a chapter of the Connecticut Green Party. The Connecticut Green Party is a an affiliated state party that's affiliated with the federation that is the national party. So that's kind of the hierarchy. There is the state party is registered with the state, and then our state party, like other state parties, is a member of this federation that is the Green Party of the United States. And
okay.
I've learned a lot about what the power structure is. But our local chapter is a recognized chapter of the state party. And so we send representatives to the state meetings, and we are allowed a certain number of votes on decisions that are made by the state party. The state party appoints 5 delegates to the national party. I'm one
Nice.
of those 5. Different states get different number of delegates on the national committee, depending on the
But
strength of the party.
everything's been running smoothly. You're not saying that there's not been any type of collusion. I mean, this always happens, factionalization, things like that. But Are you saying that right now you guys are being taken care of and everything's running smoothly with Nationals?
Running smoothly.
Never
Well,
perfect, but are things acceptable?
we have, I mean, our state party has not, we haven't had any major complaints
All
in
right.
terms of how we're being treated by National, if that's what you mean.
What about what about the candidate selection and the accusations that some people have of coronation of certain people?
Hmm. Yeah. So when Howie became the nominee in 2020, I was not, I was not involved as much on the national level, and so that was kind of invisible to me. I have heard through conversations with people since then in the national party. Now that I've kind of gotten to know a lot of the people in the national party,
Like
um,
who?
well, like the secretary and some of the co-chairs.
What about Jill Stein?
I've spoken with Jill Stein.
How's things going on with that? Is that good, bad, okay?
I like Jill Stein. I
Okay,
voted for her.
I understand. Okay.
She she became Cornell's campaign manager temporarily, and I think now she has stepped down to become an advisor, and she's advising him.
Well, I just want to sorry to just jump in for a second.
Yeah.
Just let you know, because it's our first time meeting. Just I'm actually been active since the '90s, and because of different activist things that we're trying to push, they did not actually get passed. They were betrayed at the last moment by Democrats. I actually ended up joining the Greens back in the '90s, and I've been a Green since. I believe that there's a different strategy to be taken on a state, a national, and local level. So at a local level, we're trying to impact the judges right now, which is very important for electoral fairness. We actually have a list of every single voter. That's right there. That's crazy. Now the thing is that right now, I'm sorry to say that I just want when we talk about Jill Stein, I'm sorry to say that Nationals too. The political leaders, a lot of them millionaires. Okay, let's be real. Okay, they say they're here to help the people, but a lot of times they exclude the people. And let me tell you something crazy about the Medicare for All. Why I actually no longer support Medicare for All, despite right. Yeah, the thing is that I've been on the front lines. I've taken my people to the emergency room and gotten turned away. It's illegal for them to do that, but they still, I've taken them off. I've seen, been afraid for their life, and I just seen we just sitting in the triage, nothing happening. Yeah, I mean, it got serious. I mean, anyways, yeah. So look, that's not cool. So the
Yeah.
thing is that when I went to the Medicare for All, right, there's also I don't know if you've heard of a group called Whole Washington or the Red
Yeah.
Berets. Okay, yeah, like once again, that organization very filled with doctors. Where are the poor people, the people who have been victims of the system, or the people that are the end, recipients? They are not really involved on a constant basis. And at the Medicare for All March, let me tell you how bad it is here in New York City. Even though I was one of the only Asian American organizers, and I had myself on video approaching Andrew Yang's people, offering that they shut it down because once again, the leaders work together to keep us separated. Swear to
Mm.
God, Jill Stein's one of them. I'm sorry to say, I have all the proof on this. We can present that at a later point. I'm really deep in this game. By the way, also, let me tell you some of the issues that they're not working on. I'm working with the second longest man incarcerated in New York State history, freed by the longest serving state senator in New York State history, Dominated Montgomery. His name is Reverend Keith Gadsden. We're also working with Vincent Motor, the first man freed on DNA evidence in Philly, Pennsylvania history, a very key swing state. I also have an ally named Brian Winters, who's actually a four-time elected New Hampshire state legislator, and we've all been working together in the Yang Gang and People's Party, and they never talked about us. I'm about to turn you on to a whole. I told you about like the presidential green candidates I'm talking with in the background, who are also talking about these issues as well. Um, the people on the ground that are actually getting the change done, we are actually suppressed in order to promote people that keep it going forever. So it's very exciting to meet you. You're very well qualified, and I'm very interested in fusing Matthew Ho. Also, I have interviews with him. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, it was very disappointing. Yeah,
Hmm.
even though despite I will be presenting proof to you very soon about things going on within the third party space, historical things, including testimony from Jonathan Martin, one of the only third party professors in the nation working on third parties. I don't know if you've heard the name Jonathan Martin.
I'm afraid not.
He's Framingham University. You could look him up. Also, he's been suppressed by this whole machine, right? Yes, so you're going to find out a whole lot. Anyways, just want to find out your positioning because there's some people that they've kind of really gotten into their fold, and I just need to see where you're placed within that, right? It seems like you're an outsider in that. So thank God. Okay. Anyways,
Well, I mean,
okay,
like I
yeah,
said,
okay.
I wasn't privy to everything that went on when Howie won the nomination. I know there was criticism, and I I from my conversations, I understand maybe some of it was valid, and but that's really all I can say. I don't really know the details in terms of how how we got the nomination. I know I only experienced that as a primary voter here in Connecticut. We had our primary, we had a ranked choice ballot. There were, I don't know, 6 or 7 candidates on the ballot,
You know,
and we ranked them. Um, I like Dario Williams. I rank
Hunter.
Dario Hunter.
Yeah, it's all good.
I ranked him first. I liked Howie all right. I ranked him second. Um, and we appointed our delegates and we sent them to the national convention, or it was virtual, and Howie had the most votes at that. But I think our process in Connecticut was pretty good. Was a fair primary, and that's what I was able to witness. We have a commitment to we conducted a very transparent ranked choice primary. We tried to
Okay.
get the ballot to everyone we could, and
Sure.
we tabulated the votes, and you know
Sure. I'm still
I
learning about you. I have some other questions. Just
yeah.
I'm trying to get to the other ones. Oh my God. First, I learned about you. Then I talk about some of the other positions. Right? Yeah. But I just want to understand. So the thing is that there's a lot of people who have different political ideologies. Some people say they're socialists. Some people say they're libertarians. Do you have right? What is a green for you? What do you have a political ideology? Are you progressive? Are you it seems like you're anti-neoliberal, right? I see some things on your
Mhm.
right. What is your political framing?
I guess I would say I'm an eco-socialist, which is a term that is being used a lot in the Green Party. Uh, you know, I th- I think that we need more socialism in the U.S. I don't think it's necessarily a choice either or. I think we need more workplace democracy. I think we need more publicly owned institutions. I'd like to see publicly owned utilities. And going beyond Medicare for all, I am being persuaded that we need publicly owned hospitals. Um, I think I don't necessarily think we need publicly owned like pencil manufacturers. So I think we can have a mixed economy, but even private companies, I'd like to see more democratic control, like they have in co-ops. But I'd like to see more of that
Okay.
in a broader range of industries.
Quick question. You said you had some experience with clinical work, right? Yeah, I don't know how much experience you have with that. A lot of when we talk about healthcare is actually clinical. When I say clinical, right? That's like where I'm talking about, like in the doctor's office. Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
like when you go there, like you feel sick and stuff like that. This is most people what they're really concerned about. So, as in terms of you're talking about getting things paid for, right? One thing that's concerned is people are concerned. Um, like if you take a look at the healthcare system now, right? You were around, how old are you? 40s,
I
50s?
just turned 50.
Okay, so you were around when Medicare, Medicaid started to roll out, and then the insurance of the 80s, right? Yeah, and they kind of really took hold and really changed the industry and the whole pricing structure, right? What did that do to the industry? It really kind of drove prices up and created a new bureaucracy, and I can't say it's really been a win. You get what I'm saying?
Um, which pricing structure drove prices up?
I would say healthcare prices went up, right? Actually, in the 80s, that's really when the prices really started to skyrocket with the introduction of insurance. That's when the
the
hospital started to build because they knew the insurance company would pay the price. So they
mm,
started to ratchet up the prices into these astronomical amounts. That's really the birth of $1,000 night hospital stays. That's really when it came around, correct?
I mean, I
In the 80s?
the that's a good question. I don't know all the history. I know that I don't believe that for profit is the right model for health insurance, and I'm coming to believe that it's not the right model for hospital delivery of care either, because when you have a for-profit business model, you're going to try and cut costs, and which means cutting care, and you're going to try and drive up profit. And that profit goes to shareholders. That profit goes to middlemen and executives. And Medicare as an insurance model, traditional Medicare, has a much lower overhead in terms of its expenditures, meaning the money that goes to non-medical care expenditures, compare I think it's 3% compared to over 8%, 10% for private insurance companies. So this is one of the reasons why we often try to emphasize the point that if we were to have a single payer universal healthcare system, it would be less expensive than the current insurance model.
Okay. I do want to take advantage of your unique expertise as in terms of being a researcher in the medical field. The thing is that a lot of people question the drug industry, and they say they're focusing more on like maybe like male enhancement pills, right? Yeah, rather than really, right? Yeah, like they said, like when COVID
Hmm.
happened, they were really unprepared because there's not really big money as in terms of like solving these issues that are really, I guess you could say, more fringe. They're really more interested in making money, right? And you address some of the capitalism aspect of that. Right, you have experience in the field. What do you think are the big issues here, right? With your unique, qualified perspective, what would you say to like try to fix that industry in general, or you know maybe
Hmm.
just health in general? Yeah.
You know, I come from the perspective that as that doctors need to, and patients need to, make their medical decisions based on good, solid information that they can rely on. I know there's a lot of money spent by pharmaceutical companies to try and influence doctors. I've seen them come in with their fancy pens and their fancy brochures, and I've seen them come into the hospital, and they get access to doctors, and that has influence.
I think this is one of the
Um,
only countries in the world that allows drug companies to market directly to patients. Doctors should step up and say you need to stop that. Where's the help from the doctors?
yeah, they market directly to consumers and to doctors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
doctors got to help shut that down. This is
yeah,
harming patients. I mean, they got to get involved. What's up? I mean, come on, yeah. They're
yeah,
destroying their credibility by remaining silent.
yeah. I think that those ads aimed at consumers, then they will come in then with a bias about what they think the right medicine is for them, and the doctor may have trouble persuading them otherwise after they've been influenced in
That's
that
true
way,
too. That's true too. Yeah.
because I want to put I want to have doctors who are well informed, and can really give their patients the best advice about what is the best treatment for them. And I have a lot of confidence, in doctors, and I mean, there's a lot of not all doctors are equal. Some are better than others, but there are good doctors who really read the literature and really try to understand what how to make the what the best decision is for their patient, and they need to be able to be free to make the best call and make the right decision for their patient. And yeah, I do worry that marketing to patients and marketing to doctors is interfering with that.
Okay. I do have a question for you too. Earlier you talked about eco-socialism. The thing is that some people have now. If you take a look at my work, I often reference Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, right? Also, their racial struggle, things like that, right? I'm determined to be a voice for my people, for this generation, for Asian Americans. You're checking out, definitely one of the realest out here. But right, is there someone that maybe influences your own, maybe a person that influences your own style or political thinking? Maybe an eco-socialist. I don't know.
uh Good question. Well, I mean, um
Maybe Bernie Sanders. That's a popular one.
bernie
Anyone?
sanders
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders was inspiring in terms of a lot of his message. I believe in kind of a new equal bill of rights for all Americans, that everyone should be entitled to certain basic things. So, I'm all about kind of universality, universal basic income, universal free healthcare, uh, universal job guarantee, of like a federal job guarantee. If the private market isn't giving you a job, the federal government could step in and make sure you have access to employment if that's what you want. Um, you know, Universal civil liberties. I'm also really about wanting to improve democracy, get beyond the two-party system,
You know, I
having
like this answer because I feel like it's a true green answer. It's a decentralized answer, and it's one that doesn't really create heroes, but one that really empowers the people. Right? You keep talking about democracy and the people versus right choosing like maybe a savior figure. So I have my influences, but when you're asked to choose yours, you really talk about democracy and the people, and I like that. You know what I mean?
yeah, I
In this
mean,
respect, yeah,
I've
that's
had
that's what I
I-
like.
I've had heroes, but they often end up disappointing, you
No one's
know.
perfect.
You know,
That's good.
no.
Good. Very good. Okay. Thank God, because you're about to run up against some, smoke and mirrors, right? Yes. So hopefully, I help you point out. And I'm not saying don't work with them, but don't cut me off. All right? Yeah. You're gonna. Okay. Anyways, let's get to some of my. Okay. So now we got to learn a little bit about yourself, right? Yeah. And that's the first half of the interview. And the second half of the interview, we really go over some positions, stuff like that. So actually, I always like to put my political partners first, and some of these may be strong political allies in your own bid for power, right? Yeah, like I work with large communities such as public housing. I've been working that since the Obama era. I've been an activist for 25 years. And the thing is that right now I'm actually going to be performing at the, I'll send you some of my work on that, right? It's quite legendary. We just had Wu Tang, Supreme from Wu Tang shout us out over at Chelsea Projects, right? So we have some
Nice,
historical stuff going
nice.
on. Now, the thing is that, so one of my partners, and the first one that I've always had, and it's so sad, right, with Assange people, but, I am either way, just do you have how do you feel about freeing Assange? They asked my political partner.
Yeah, yeah. I believe he was doing journalism.
That's cool. All right. So you down to free Assange?
Oh yeah,
Beautiful.
absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, just so you know, in the 22 election cycle, we got Republicans, Independents, Greens, Libertarians, and Independents to all agree on 99 different points. One of them was to actually free Assange. This was a unanimous decision. The press ain't talking about this. And there's other things. Yeah. I hope to get involved with our 24 project. That's going to be very exciting. I'm going to introduce some other people. Also, former Green president's candidate Susan Basha-Lachaki. I don't know if you've heard of her. Yeah. But she was a
I'm
former
sorry,
president.
no.
Don't worry about it. We're going to do a whole bunch of other people too. It's going to be a good time. But the next issue that so another group that I work with is the Yang Gang.
Hmm.
How do you feel about UBI?
Yes, I support universal basic income. Uh, I think that it's part of this idea that the economy as a whole is generating all this income, but it's being concentrated. There's just a natural tendency over generations for wealth to become concentrated. And, I mean, capitalism in a lot of ways, capital markets end up, they're kind of like a pyramid. They end up exploiting the need, like people in need. If you are in economic need, then you have to work. If you have a big account at Fidelity, then you don't need to work, and you can just kind of live off of the system. And that's that.
Socialism for the rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey man, I appreciate that. And just so you know, Yang Gang once again, just want to remind y'all, I've asked every candidate this question, by the way, so you can see how other candidates responded. Be careful about supporting a slogan. A lot of these things that they say are for us are weaponized against us. I do support UBI, but the implementation matters greatly, and do not get careless about, right? Oh, this is the same thing as UBI. No, it's not. Stop it. All right, stop it. Okay, there's not
Mm.
a there's a lot of people trying to push tax rebates as UBI, right? Yeah, but only
Oh,
rich, right? But the rich people owe more taxes, so they're the ones getting stop. There's a lot of mumbo jumbo, hocus pocus going on. Yeah, and
yeah, yeah.
another group that I work with is disabled. We just got the New York State Disabilities Coordinator restored after a month of protest in front of City Hall. Mark Saffman, by the way, has helped keep the Medicare for All marches accessible. Right? Yeah, very proud of our work
Mm.
in that. Once again, they never talk about that. Yeah. Now, right
Mhm.
now, people with disabilities are actually allowed to be paid sub minimum wage. Now, the thing is that, right, if we look
Mm.
at minimum wage, we see it's a living salary. Maybe if they have reduced productivity in some aspects, right, maybe federal subsidies or something, would you support living wage somehow for people with disabilities?
Yeah, of
Hey,
course.
that's cool, man. All right, go ahead.
I mean, I went to a disabilities forum. I spoke. They had very impressive organization in Connecticut, and they invited all the candidates running for office. I believe it was 2022, and yeah, they had it was early in the year, but they had candidates for governor and legislature and all kinds of things. And they really are a community that we need to pay attention to. And um, they have trouble navigating the system. The system is difficult to navigate for them to even to get the services that they're already entitled to. But making things accessible is is important. A big thing for the disabled community is this getting the support they need to live as independently as they can.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean I have disabled people in my family, and I mean I mean
And
I
I have to say something that's really there's a lot of times in the disabled community, right, that people like to focus on the people with wheelchairs. I'm not saying the people with wheelchairs don't need help. 100% they do, yeah, but they're able to communicate easier than people who are like deaf, blind, or have other challenges to communication. And the thing is that we need to make sure that all parts of the community are taken care of, especially the most vulnerable. And these are really, really
yeah.
gotta make sure that's complete. Just because you got somebody there who looks like the part, I mean, you gotta really investigate and make sure that everybody's taken care of. Otherwise, it's just not a complete solution. Yeah, and I'm there to make. Yeah, I'm the guard barrier for that type of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, this to me is one of the big this is what government is supposed to be about, is us coming together and figuring out how we're going to cooperate and make this make a government that is supporting the people who otherwise are going to fall behind and get left in fall through the cracks.
well, my next question actually addresses something
Yeah.
like that. So let's get to another group that I work with, right? Yeah, and these are all hopefully communities that you can use this to use for your campaign to get yourself more supporters, right? Another group that I work with is the trans community.
Hmm.
Now the thing is that we know that trans people face a lot of discrimination, like in their job, in the workplace, and I get it, right? Not saying it's cool, but I get it, right? Yeah, they're different. I face discrimination myself. They also face discrimination in housing. I get it, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
Now the thing is that they find them. So let's say this is a hypothetical situation, right? Yeah. Let's imagine that 10% of people applying for public housing are trans. Then you
Hmm.
go through and then we do a system check and we see only 2% of people in public housing are trans. So we go to the people who are trans and say, hey, what's going on here? And they say we're being discriminated against. We're not like, people are beating us up. Now there's no law saying that you can discriminate against trans people, but this is what they're reporting. How are you going to help these people get fair access to government services?
Well, we certainly, I mean, in any case where civil rights laws don't include gender identity, they should include that as a protected class, I believe.
Okay, here's just another little flip side of that, right? Yeah. In the question too, there's the idea of 10%, 2%. So there's the idea of quotas. There's right, yeah, like what do you think about, like, are you a numbers person? Do you feel like, right? Most people don't like quotas. I'll tell you right now. Yeah, most of my answer, very rarely people support quotas in the answer. But what do you feel, right? Yeah, how do you develop your solution based off of the information given?
Well, I these are tough questions, but I mean, the way civil rights laws generally work, as I understand, is that you are not allowed to discriminate for housing or employment on the basis of certain factors, race, nationality, sexual orientation, and gender identity should be included in that. And then, if I mean, unfortunately, the burden often falls on the person who is wrong to try and mount a legal case that they have been discriminated against. Um, that's difficult. I think the government could you know provide those lawyers. The government could make that process easier. The government, because it shouldn't be a matter of whether you can afford to sue. um, I think that's the government could provide the resources you need to, if you believe that you have been discriminated against, that you have the legal resources you need to make that fight. And then And then in the courts, the judicial system, I think it's on a case by case basis, can decide whether someone's civil rights have been violated.
Okay. That's good to know. Just so you know, I've actually asked I think over 100 candidates this exact question, so you can see how they all responded to it. And as well as their other policy positions, right? It just might be interesting, just as a candidate yourself, to really just be exposed to, how other people thought about different things, right? Sorry, we're almost done with my partners right here. I don't know if you've heard of this thing called right to repair.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
do you support right to
For like
repair?
electronics and stuff.
Yeah, and farm equipment and McDonald's ice cream machines. I don't know if you heard about that stuff, right? Yeah, farming
Mhm.
implements. Yeah, even the military. I think Biden had to force, right? Yeah, because the military contractors were so abusing, right? Yeah, the contracts. So I'm gonna guess you are a supporter of right to repair.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
I think I
I
am.
saw the
I mean,
hesitation. I got scared for a second. Yeah, I'm not mad. Yeah, this is about you. Go ahead. I want to hear.
again, like a lot of my answers, I often have to throw in some kind of subtlety or something. I mean, I guess if there is some safety issue, like if there is, that maybe the repair needs to be supervised or certified that it was done correctly. I don't know. I mean, I don't know a lot about the issue. If it's like your cell phone or something, or sure, why not? Or if it's your computer, there's no safety issue. Um, I don't know as much about tractors and things, but generally, yes, I think that a lot of the laws are written to protect profits and not to protect safety. And so, generally, yeah, I support the right to repair, but I'm not an expert on the issue. I just want to throw that out there, that there could be cases where, I don't know, somebody rewires something and then it could explode, I guess. But
Okay. Just so I actually was homeless at the age of 16. I actually, because of ongoing stuff from the war, so I've actually been really deeply involved with a lot of the housing fights, stuff like that. Now, did you know that they're ending public housing as we know it? And this was from the Obama era. They actually instituted something called RAD Pact, where they said they could no longer pay for public housing repairs. So they said they were going to turn it over to something called Section 8. I don't know if you heard of something called Section 9, Section 8. Section 8 is affordable housing, and it's actually really time bomb to really help the landlords versus the tenants, to help like them accrue value. I don't know if you've ever heard of this particular thing.
I mean, I've heard of Section 8 housing, but I need to learn more about this. I appreciate you
Okay,
bringing this up.
sure.
Uh,
They're actually a big community, and they might actually be helpful. Even the Section 8 community, right? That could be a large electoral base. We should definitely be talking more on that. Now the thing is that but now if we take a look at public housing, once again, who lives there? The most vulnerable: elderly, veterans, people with disabilities, severe disabilities. Would you be willing? Now, I'm not saying that there aren't been people that have abused it, right? Yeah, but overall, there should be. Would you agree with the continuation of public housing as we know it?
yeah, I mean, we need
Yeah,
to
the
have public
complete phasing
housing.
out. Yeah, thank
We
you.
need,
Appreciate that.
oh yeah, we need to have public housing. We need to have affordable housing. There are, my understanding is there are Wall Street firms that are buying up huge swaths of real estate and keeping some of it off the market, and that's driving up prices. And again, it's the profit motive that is spoiling things often.
Okay.
Uh, and yeah, often the answer is not just making the market more free. I'm not a neoliberal. A lot of times the answer is the government coming in and making sure that there's affordable housing, and that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars. And I believe in progressive taxation. I believe, that your tax
Oh,
rate
wait,
should
wait,
go.
wait till you hear how crooked this is. Yeah, who's the number one buyer of these or one of the largest buyers of these public housing projects? Do you know?
I don't know. Is it BlackRock? I don't know.
It's the schools. And actually, if you look at BlackRock, they have a board member on NYU, so it kind of is tied together. Also, right, NYU, just so you know, has almost bought up almost all of the doctor practices in Manhattan.
Hmm.
There's actually a large amount of medical consolidation. Probably in New Haven, this is going on too, isn't it? Many small doctors' businesses closing and getting absorbed by the big guys, so that they can have the insurance take care of it on a group bargaining, right?
Yale
It's
is
a business.
appearing everywhere. You see the Yale logo popping up on doctors' offices and hospitals, and they're buying their neighbors. And
And if you
yeah,
look at the way that their dorms run and the way that they get real estate, right? Yeah, they're rolling that model out for a few. It's just there's huge problems. Yeah. Anyways, just what was I? I was talking about my partners, right? Yeah. So just want to jump onto another group. But yeah, the wrongfully convicted. Now the thing is that uh, shout out to Nolan Farrell, by the way. He even has a letter from the Commission Integrity Unit of New York City. You can look this up. This is historically relevant. The last DA before Melinda Katz, right? She's a Democrat right now, who Hakeem Jeffries actually supported. I have this on video, right? Yeah. As well as Meeks, actually the local Democratic lead boss. Now the thing is that before her as a DA, they found that there was something called China walling, where they were deliberately sending people to jail, even though they knew they were innocent or they had evidence, right? Yeah, because they need to keep the conviction numbers high. So the last DA was gotten rid of, but the whole bureaucracy underneath her that made that happen is still there. And Melinda Katz, right? Yeah, is still protecting them because that bureaucracy has its own hidden power. And the thing is that Nolan Farrell has a letter from the Conviction Integrity Unit 2 years ago saying that the evidence used against him was false. He still can't get exonerated to this day. Before I talk about Reverend Keith Gadsden, so right, that's just the New York example, right? The second longest man held in New York State history, also waiting for exoneration that I'm working with personally. But Vincent Moto from Pennsylvania, he actually was exonerated 22 years ago, the first man freed on DNA evidence, and he has not been compensated even a penny to this day because Pennsylvania has no compensation law. Texas, you may hear like being like, they're actually right, even though they're number one in killing people, they're also number one in exonerations, and they have the best compensation law in the United States. So we're trying to get a compensation law passed for people like Vincent Moto to, people that have been wrongfully convicted. We got to make them right. People talk about reparations. We could help people right now. We need to stop BS. So would you be a helpful partner and supporting that? The wrongful convictions compensation. Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean
that's
that seems I mean in we had a speaker from Once Incarcerated Anonymous, and they also had an event in Bridgeport recently that I didn't get to go to. But the situation of the incarcerated or the formerly incarcerated is an important an issue. It's again the kind of the invisible often people that we don't see, that we don't take care of, and they need to be reenfranchised. They need to get their right to vote back, or
yeah.
just stay or keep it even when incarcerated.
We just got legislation passed so that people wrongfully convicted who made confessions can actually still access legal help. So that's actually something might be able to in your state as well. Yeah. We'll talk about some other plans that are very cool, but that's just knowing that once again this community once again can rally around you and we can really combine those together, right? Another group that I work with is the check over here. Oh, want to shout out Move to Amend. Okay. I do work with Wolfpack, Move to Amend, and also Convention of States, three anti-corruption groups. I'm going to ask you a question about corruption in a hot minute. Yeah, that's a crazy question. It's good. It's a good finisher. Oh my God. Yeah, but Move to Amend right now, they have actually a petition. They're actually trying to end Citizens United, which actually said
Mhm.
corporations get to have free speech and they're like people. Would you be down for supporting the end of Citizens United?
Absolutely, and I would go further that we need public financing for all campaigns. In Connecticut, we have the Citizens Election Program that is able to finance and give grants to a lot of candidates who are running for office from public money. And we need to level the playing field. They need to demonstrate a certain amount of support with signatures that they gather. And I think there's also a fundraising aspect, which I don't like as much, but I think, even before Citizens United decision, there was too much, influence of money in our politics. And, Obama was going to run on the public finance, right? And then he decided he could make more money and have more money to spend if he didn't. So he decided to go back to having private funding for his campaign. It's all a disaster. And we are not a democracy that's representing people's values and interests. We're democracy that's representing the well-moneyed interests, of course. And public financing is something I've long wanted to see. And so, just of course, we need to get rid of Citizens United, but I would go further.
Okay. And just so you know, one thing, I did mention Wolfpack. I did mention, Convention of States. Now, I'm just going to tell you guys a reality that a lot of people might not really know because I'm out here working on the ground. I work with Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Greens, Libertarians, all of them. I know what they're capable of. I know what they're up to, just straight up and down. And the fact of the matter is that if we look at Wolfpack, I've worked with them as well, too, for a long time. Right now, right, yeah, they're the best known, but I'm going to tell you the truth, okay? They had 5 states that were supporting their move, right? Yeah, and then now they're down to 4, okay? And it's not really 100% their fault. They had to renew things, but they didn't renew them properly, and they lost one, okay? Yeah. Convention of States is affiliated with the right wing. I'm gonna tell you straight up right now. Yeah, I'm not gonna deny it. Yeah, but the fact is that out of the 20, I think 24 that they need, they have or 30 that they need, they have 19. They have over half already, right? Yeah, you got to look at results. Now, there's another group called Move to Amend. They're actually, right, and they're the ones that I mentioned first. You know why? Because they receive the least funding. But if you take a look at where they are in the process, they're getting just as much done, if not more, than Wolfpack, which is actually taking more of a state approach versus Movement, which is taking a federal approach, right? But once again, you got to investigate these organizations and these individuals like Jill Stein and stuff like that. A lot of people will just hear a name brand that they recognize and they give it some type of, they hear a title. They, instead of looking at what the person's accomplished, what they sacrificed, what they achieved, what their perspective is, they're following a known brand. And a lot of these things are traps, straight up. The people out here, they're getting the most done on these issues, I'm telling you. So right now, we're going to ask you about a question. This is the final question that I have. We're just down to, unless you could go on. Yeah, hopefully it's interesting enough. A lot of these candidates talk about ending corruption. For me, that's the number one issue. And I'm going to ask them right now. They talk about it. Are you ready to call out corruption yourself? Is there something going on in your community that you can write? Yeah, or let's see, right, how well you know corruption and if you're willing to put your money where your mouth is, and call someone out.
Corruption. Well, yeah, I mean, it's widespread everywhere you look. And again, I mean, so for example, there's a Tweed Airport is an airport in East Haven, and there's right, it's right next to New Haven, and it's got a lot of support from Goldman Sachs. It's in a low-lying area. It's like swampland, really. It's surrounded by wetlands, and it's not long-term a smart place to build an airport. The airport's been there a long time, but they want to expand it. There's a big grassroots movement to stop this. But there's a lot of Goldman Sachs money, I believe, that's coming in. For example, my state rep, Sean Scanlon, who's a Democrat, got hired to be the head of the airport authority. He has no experience being, running an airport or anything. And I do think that was a case of Goldman Sachs coming in with a lot of money and being able to hire influence within the political system. And I think that kind of thing happened. He got a nice salary being the head of the airport authority, much nicer than he was getting as a state rep. So I think that kind of thing happens a lot. It's a horrible idea to expand that airport. I mean, it's going to get flooded. It's going to create traffic problems, safety problems, just ambulances getting through. But they throw a lot of money at it, and a lot of the politicians jump on board. So it isn't just the campaign, finance that can end up influencing people. It's also the revolving door of people who get hired by private industry, politicians who get hired by private industry, and end up, having that conflict of interest.
Okay. So one of the ways that I appreciate that, yeah, and once again, right, you look for people that are actual fighters. Yeah, some people they draw a blank, they can't say anything, they're not fighting for anything really. They talk about it, but then they have nothing to say. That airport is cool. You got something local, something right that could have personal, repercussions. You're actually involved. You're sacrificing, and I appreciate that. Convention of States is actually a group. They say they're trying to call for a fiscal restraints on the federal government, impose term limits, and would you be supportive of decentralization?
Decentralization Defined how exactly?
By reducing, by putting fiscal restraints on the federal government and limiting the federal government's power and jurisdiction.
Um, I'm not familiar with that organization, Convention
That's
of
okay.
States,
Okay.
but
Well, okay, go ahead.
yeah, I'm not
Don't worry
sure.
about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
In
sorry.
the end, the leaders can do what they want, but in the end, the people need to organize. So I'm in all the spaces. Yeah. But Wolfpack, I do also think has a similar type of thing of being against Citizens United, but they're just doing it at state level. So I think that's also an endorsement of their overall mission statement. Once again, I do encourage people to be more critical of the results. Yeah, for the
Hmm.
input. Yeah, that means something. Okay, there's a lot of celebrities making money off of this, getting rich. Yeah, while they starving out the people who's doing the real work. Yeah. Oh well, but nice to meet you, man. Yeah, I'm very excited. Um, okay, so look, you said you're running for Senate in 20. Do you have any other people that in the Shoreline that's running? I think you guys already have electeds right now. You guys running a party line?
Well, we're going to have a lot of work to do to try and get the presidential ballot line for next year in Connecticut since we lost it in 2020. So we're going to mount a big effort to get whoever is the presidential nominee of the Green Party on the ballot in Connecticut. And then I'm going to be on that same petition so that I can be a candidate for Senate. And we continue to run people for state and local office. We have a candidate running for alder in New Haven. We're going to have, that's within my jurisdiction. We have David Bedell. He's going to run for state senate next year.
Just so you know, right? Yeah, I had an interview with Sam Robb of the Libertarian Party. He's a former presidential candidate for this Libertarians. I have once again I had the most interviews in the election cycle for 22, and he said something called they call it the Munson, where the Libertarians were able to take over 200 elected seats in Pennsylvania. They actually use a list like this, right? They have their own collection of this, and they actually go door to door. A lot of politicians, when they want to win, they do that. So I think that you said that once again. I think you may have mentioned earlier that the more Greens voted than Democrats in a certain election recently. Well, I heard that, and maybe it was another person who mentioned that.
Well, I don't know. We had David ran for state senate, David Bedell, and there was no Democrat in the race, so he was able to get a good chunk of the vote. Probably mostly Democrats that voted for him, and that qualified him for the clean elections program. So he'll be able to have more money to run his campaign next year, and we're very excited about that. So
That's
that's
great.
one strategy for Greens is to look for elections where there maybe is no Democrat running, um, because it can be hard. Of course, it's hard as a third party, but of course, we're fighting for electoral reforms like ranked choice voting that'll put all the different parties on an
I,
even playing field.
I do have to ask about that one. Okay, have you ever actually had ranked choice voting in your actual district, or have you ever experienced ranked choice voting?
Experienced it? Well, I mean, I've learned a lot about ranked choice voting as
Okay.
being an activist and being connected with an organization in Connecticut that was trying to bring it to the state level. So I know a lot about the process, but we don't have it in Connecticut, and we're not even allowed to have districts within Connecticut that can use it because
Okay.
first the
Well,
state has to pass a law to allow that.
I'd like to actually share with you my own findings on this particular topic. Now, just so you know, New York City has actually gone through 2 cycles of ranked choice voting since they have recently implemented it. Not only that, but I've also, even before ranked choice voting was implemented in New York, I don't know if you heard of something called star voting, which is like an alternate form of ranked choice voting. There's also something called,
Hmm.
approval voting. There's some other different models. I've actually studied them. Actually,
Hmm.
we had something called the People's Party in New York, and we actually experimented within our own organization having ranked choice voting, star voting, and tried out these different patterns to see how we like them within our community, right? Yeah. And I'll tell you from ranked choice voting right here, I've already made this public on my channel. I challenge anyone right now, I challenge anyone in the world to tell me how ranked choice voting has impacted the New York City elections in a positive way. Okay, some people have tried to say it's positive in one way or the other. Tell me what issue was really pushed in a way. I'll tell you the real horrible truth of the situation from my observation. I'm not the only one saying this. My actions of the year 2021, Fiocchino has also said this right completely independently. The fact of the matter is that in order for candidate A and candidate B over here, right? Yeah, they want each other's voter base. So they're not willing to really contest each other. In fact, they want to be friends because they want to be ranked higher than the other one who was disliked. You get what I mean? So it's like the example of Trump's the bad guy, so we could rank him 5, but I am friendly with you. So what happens? It's like a rise of the clones, and the fact of the matter is that once again, I challenge anybody right here. We've been through living through two. This is the second time, right? Yeah. If they didn't get down the first time, why the second time? This is the second year, the second election cycle where it's been actively in progress. There's a lot of cats out there like Jill Stein that wave, a slogan out there like it's a solution. Okay, I'm not, and a lot of resources go into that, right? Yeah, I'm not saying it's completely unworthy. We've studied that, right? Yeah, there are some advantages, there's some disadvantages. Look, right there. Also, my interview with Jonathan Martin, once again, the third-party professor nation, where I addressed this, he said exactly what you said, right? There's other ways to attack the system, such as in uncontested races, right, where you run basically, right? Yeah, the third party is really essentially becomes, right, it's the third party effect is nullified in that particular instance. So we've already recorded our thoughts on that particular situation. Once again, when you heard about the revolutions happening in Buffalo or Nevada, non-establishment people taking over, you never heard about it until after it succeeded. Yeah, they don't want to help you until you win. Otherwise, they hate the grassroots, the media, and unfortunately, Jill Stein. I'm still waiting for a conversation. Still waiting, Jill. Well, she working with Revolutionary Blackout. She working with Jimmy Dore. She working with Cornel West. She's a closed path to the actual grassroots. I'm telling you right now. Most people all across the nation, you're about to meet them.
Well, I'll just say that, what I oppose is first past the post voting, which we have right now, because there's and I know there's star voting and there's ranked choice voting and there's pros and cons of each. And I'm open to hearing, considering star voting more, but I know that I don't like first past the post, because if you look at, there's something called Duverger's law that basically says any system with single member districts and first past the post voting is going to end up as a two-party system. And that's what we have. I think we're living proof of that, and that comes from lesser evil voting, because people look at, if there's 3 candidates in a race, they don't want to throw away their one vote if to the candidate they may like the least, if they think that person has no chance of winning, because they want to stop what they see as the greater evil. There's so many people who vote that way, and it keeps third parties from having a shot. And I want to see a future where there are 6, 7, 8 viable parties represented in Congress. I want to see multi-party democracy in America. I think that'll be a much better system, much more representative system, because, like take the presidential election, there's a lot of people who are going to vote for Joe Biden, even though, they may feel the Green Party candidate represents them better, only because they don't want Donald Trump to be president. I can understand that. It's kind of a rational decision in the system we have. I'm not going to vote that way. I'm going to be voting Green, because I believe that voting third party puts pressure on the duopoly parties they have the power to implement a better voting system, whether it be ranked choice, whether it be star voting. They have the power to create an electoral system that will make it possible to have multi-party democracy in America.
Did you go to the recent Green meeting with the $100 ticket?
The Green meeting with the $100 ticket?
Yeah, I'm talking about. There was a national meeting with a $100 ticket, though.
I went to the annual national meeting. They did have, financial assistance for people who couldn't afford it.
But it was a $100 ticket, right?
I think that was the ask price, maybe. But okay. They did offer financial assistance for people who couldn't.
Well, the thing is that some of us, right, have many documented instances of trying to contact the Green Party, certain people in leadership, and they don't respond. So this has all been documented. So, what good is that, right? Yeah. Anyways, what good is even showing up, right, in some instances? But that's just some people. Some people are treated differently than others, and we're also documenting all of that. So it is just what it is. But
well, I mean, people are. Look, I mean, I'm done with the two-party system. I was a Democrat for a long time. I tried to fight the powers that be within the Democratic Party to make it a more progressive party. I was a progressive Democrat, and I saw that there's a clear bias at the top of the leadership of the party against progressives within the party. And now I'm in a party where everyone agrees on a lot of the issues we were talking about today. And we are trying to do the best we can to represent those values and to come together and create an organization that is fair. And that is hard, but and we are trying to create. We have values that are solid, and we're trying to realize those values and manifest them in the form of a political party that is grassroots, that is democratically controlled. And there are is it does it always end up being the way it should be? I'm sure it doesn't. But but that has to be the goal, I think, is to have that. And I'm trying to make that happen. I know a lot of people are trying to make that happen. And I speak out. If I see something in the Green Party that I think is undemocratic, I speak out about it. I did that at the annual national meeting.
Okay.
uh, there was a couple of people there who wanted to seek the Green Party nomination who weren't able to get into a certain Zoom room, and I think there was some discrimination against them. And I spoke out against it. I said, "Look, we have to treat all the presidential candidates equally."
Yeah.
You
What? Come
know?
on now. Yeah, exactly. They're playing games. Stop it. Yeah. All right. I appreciate that, man. We need someone to call the balls and strikes fairly. You know what I mean? And I don't care if it's third party or not. You got to play fair, otherwise, it's going to deal with me. Yeah. It's just what it is. All right. So, hey, look. I think the name of your website is called Justin for All, the number four and then ALL, right?
Yeah, it's I'm having some I'm in transition right now with the website. I moved it to a different provider and stuff, and it's not really
Okay.
ready for prime time yet. And I didn't get my email transferred, so now I'm having trouble getting my email and everything. But it is justinforall.org, and once I get all the issues sorted out.
You might convince me to return to supporting Medicare for all, but I'm telling you right now that unfortunately, even with whole Washington Red Berets and all them, they're actually discriminating against poor people. Once again, I told you my background, right? Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I'll tell you, yeah. But actually, I was also whistleblowing on things happening at the college. I actually have the medical students who are out in support for me. I was also working on a project to actually reduce death. I'm not right. I'm not saying that was a perfect suit. I'm not. Yeah, that some combination, but I was also raising issues about what was going on that caused a lot of problems. The students were supporting me. I had that in a video why I'm the Medicare for all fight, right? Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that the way that they discriminate against poor people, the way they don't want to hear from the victims. Once again, this is also happening in the anti-war stuff. I know they're going to try to, after they watch you, the people from Rage Against the War Machine are going to contact you. People from the Delusions are going to contact you, and they're going to say, "Hey, Justin, come be a part of what we're doing, right? Yeah, this little club where DJL7 isn't there, and a lot of his friends aren't there, right? With a lot of media, big wigs. But I'm telling you right now that the fact of the matter is that it's all millionaires up there. Lee Camp, Jill Stein, Cornell West, Jimmy Dore, and I'm not saying that they don't get to have a place in the movement. They do, sure, but they don't get to replace us. Where are your poor people? Where are your grassroots? Why are they never there? Sabs is there. You heard about the extent of my work, right? I have more questions. Myself and Dak Rouleau, there's a Harvey Weinstein type stuff going on in this space, man. You got to wise up real quick. Yeah, a lot of people in the top are immune or they don't really see what's going on. It's definitely in this space. I'm telling you 100%. Why wouldn't it be? Celebrities, millionaires, power. Definitely start looking around. Stop kidding yourself. Yeah, it's real dirty. Yeah, I'm pointing it out. Hopefully,
Yeah,
the Green Party's getting touched. It's a historical low point for the third party because the way that the Libertarians and the Greens are getting together under Nick Brana, yo, I'm telling you, I actually led MPP and Gang to Schumer's doorstep. I have all this on video. I'll send you the videos, yeah. But they're suppressing all that. I was the first person in the nation that forced the vote at AOC's office. I have all this documented with allies here in public housing, wrongful convictions, all this, disabilities. My man Mark Zaffin just got back from Washington D.C. And you could look at our work on accessible pedestrian signals. In terms of like fixing traffic for people with disabilities. So yeah, man, I'm super excited to meet you. Yeah, I'm actually gonna whip this out to those other presidential Green President candidates that I was talking about earlier. I'm sure they're going to be very interested to hear what you have to say on all these issues. And I think they're going to be reaching out to you real soon. I'd be
it's
shocked if they don't. Yeah, go ahead.
well, it's really nice to meet you. I really appreciate the depth of your involvement in all these important issues.
Yeah,
I mean, I really do. And
we're putting
I
candidates together for the 24 election cycle. So hopefully you're a part of that conversation as well, ongoing with other candidates around the nation, including once again from key swing states, we can actually get the change you're looking for. We're
Yeah,
path.
let's hope, man. We need it. We need it bad.
Let's go. I like your style, man. I like your style. All right. Anything last you want to? What? Now that people know about your stuff, right? Justin uh,
It's
for
Justin
all.org.
Justin, yeah, with the numeral 4, justinforall.org.
Okay.
And it's again, it's not quite ready for prime time. I got to work on it.
But what you
But
got coming up for people to look forward to? Like what? Now they're gonna like maybe you got a YouTube show coming up. I don't know. You got more stuff. What's in the future for you?
well, I'm focused on helping our local candidates right now, and I've been doing a lot to try and develop the Green Party of Connecticut. Trying to bring in some speakers and just getting us more organized, reached out. We have young people who, what gives me hope, we have like a couple young people in Western Connecticut who want to start their own chapters of the Green Party. They're juniors in high school. They can't even vote yet, but they're excited about what the Green Party has to offer and what it can be. And again, I believe in the ideal of the Green Party. I know there's probably individuals who don't adhere to all the values, but I believe the values are sound and the idea is important. And I do want to see multi-party democracy in America where people can ally themselves with the candidate or the party that they believe in most and feel free to vote for that person without worrying about spoiler effects. I really am excited about. Um, I think the enthusiasm that I'm seeing in for third party spaces. I listen to Brianna Joy Gray. I don't know if you're a fan of hers. Not so much.
She's
No.
also part of them, the ones that shutting us out. The Miki Const, all of them. Yeah, they're actually
Mm.
the ones. What is Brianna Joy Gray really doing to help people? Is she helping people with wrongful convictions? What is she doing? She's talking about the things that the mainstream media talks about, making sure that the narrative stays in a certain lane and does not talk about the only third party independent candidate forum in New York City, run by myself. Does not talk about our police reform efforts with Serpico. Serpico, yeah. For 3 years consistently, they've been blackballing. They've been suppressing every single thing that we've been doing. Our public release of the data of the voter list to give people that are trying to get change, everything that we do, they suppress. They look like they're the real deal. They sound like they're telling about change. All they're doing is stopping the real change from happening. I swear to God. I swear to God on my life. Look at my body of work. Look at what they're doing. Ask yourself why the real ones, myself, Theo Chino, James Roguski, right? Brian Winters, why they never talk about our work. I'm telling you, I swear to God, we meet each other on the grounds. And I'm talking with other people right now that know me from the past. The only unionized Chinese restaurant in all of New York City, Nelson Marr. He knows me from 20 years ago, back when I was working with the Greens back then in Buffalo, New York. I'm telling you right now that he has to interview on my channel, but we only talk about the activism of at Amazon and at UPS to make those things more acceptable, and the stars and these millionaire celebrities and these celebrities who can be bought off, who are paid to do commercials. Stop it. Stop it.
Hey,
Where's the disabled people at? You want to talk about criminal justice? Where's the actual? They don't know nobody. And I'm actually working, just so you know, Tyree Nichols just died. The co-chair of DSA over there in Memphis, Tennessee. New York City DSA didn't really help her. I did. She was actually locked up for protesting, the governor, and I made sure that the DA dropped charges. You know what I mean? So I'm in another event with George Floyd's brother, Terrence Floyd. I'm telling you, helping the wrongfully convicted. Yeah, I'm getting connected here. Wu-Tang, stuff like that, said that the Rage Against the War Machine is whack. That Brianna Joy Gray not covering that. How many Yang Gang, right? Yeah, I said I'm a historical Asian American activist. I'm telling you right now, every single Asian American activist and every single captain in New York City quit and then said that Yang's thing was whack. The press never covered it. Now his most current publicity director said Yang's thing is empty and he's ripping people off. They still not covering because people's making money. Yeah, and they protect
man,
each other. It's disgusting and wrong. And you sound like they haven't really got to you yet. So thank God. Yeah, but
no, hey,
I'm not, keep
I
talking to
am
them, but don't cut us out.
I'm always open to getting more wise.
Oh
I
yeah,
want to know. I want to know the truth. I don't
we're
know.
gonna
I
show
want to
you.
know what's really going on. I have my ideals,
Don't
and I
trust
know.
anyone. But yeah, I'm gonna introduce a whole bunch of people. It's not just me. I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm gonna send you a bunch of stuff to look at. It's an honor to meet you, and I'm very excited. Yeah, Connecticut's a very important state. It's one of the Democratic fundraising strongholds, and also can be a very strong weapon as in terms of electoral strength. Yeah, and in terms of helping the rest of the movement out. So there's a lot of critical key states that we're in right now: Pennsylvania, North Carolina, yeah, Arizona. We got people. I'm News for World. I'm talking to them too. Yeah, we're gonna do this.
All right, man. It's a real pleasure to meet you. I enjoyed this interview. Thank you very much.
It's an honor. Thank you so much. God bless. All right, so I'm gonna hit end the broadcast, and